Sansevieria Sam moves to Bloomsville, a story about how a plant deals with a school bully. Written by Tina Hom, illustrated by Elena Harman. Read by Karl T. Wright. After transferring to Greenhouse High School in the city of Bloomsville, Sansevieria Sam was given a tour of the school by his new friend, Pictus Pete. "How are you liking Bloomsville?" asked Pete. "It's okay, but I'm going to have to get used to this weather. The last place I lived wasn't this humid," said Sam, as beads of sweat dripped down his marigold yellow pot. Pete chuckled. As they continued to walk through the school, Pete pointed out some of his friends. "That's Mimi and Ari. They're sister and brother. Top of the class. Always climbing. That's my cousin Anna. She just moved here from Brazil. And that's my pal Figgy." "He's tall," exclaimed Sam. "Yeah, he's always been a fast grower. He lives in a big house on a hill that gets lots of sunlight, and his parents feed him only the best fertilizer." Suddenly, the school bell rang. Sam looked at his schedule and headed to his first class, Germination 101. Germination class was great. Sam liked the teacher with her wild hair and great sense of humor. She was so relaxed. She told the class to call her Pilly instead of her scientific name, Pilea peperomioides. Sam wasn't really into Mrs. Elastica's top-dressing class. He thought the subject was a little shallow. His favorite class of the day was photosynthesis with Mr. Parker. Sam always wanted to know how plants use the sun to create oxygen and make energy for themselves. By lunchtime, Sam was thirsty. He hadn't had anything to drink in over a month. While sitting on a garden bed, snacking on fertilizer and guzzling water with Pete, he looked around at the different groups of plants. There were the succulents, who like him drank far less often than the other plants. Instead, they seemed to spend most of the lunch break sunning themselves. Then, there was a group of very pretty plants, Calathea, Stromanthe, and Polly. Pete told Sam those plants were often misting themselves with water and hiding from the sun because their leaves sunburnt easily. Pete warned Sam to stay away from the group of plants that hung out under the bleachers. They were mostly a bunch of weeds who were up to no good. Sam began warming up to the school, thinking maybe moving to Bloomsville wasn't so bad after all. Then, out of nowhere, a purple plant named Oxy and his two friends, Bobby and Tilly, approached them. Oxy had been known to start trouble around the school. He looked at Sam and bellowed, "Check out the new kid. Hey, snakehead. Your pot looks a little small for you. Did you forget to repot yourself last spring?" Sam felt embarrassed. After all, he knew it was past time to switch to a larger planter. He had asked his parents if they could take him shopping for some nice patterned pots at Urban Plant Fitters, his favorite potting store. But they had been so busy planning the move to Bloomsville, there just hadn't been enough time. The three plants burst into laughter and walked away. Pete saw how upset his friend was and tried to comfort him. "Aw, don't listen to them. They're just a bunch of mealybugs who will suck the sap out of you if you let them get to you." Sam started thinking about his old school. He missed his friends Finn and Jade, and wished his family had never transplanted themselves to this awful, muggy city. When Sam returned home, his parents eagerly asked how his first day of school had been. Sam shrugged and said it was okay, then quietly walked to his room. But his sister Cylindrica knew something wasn't right. Cylindrica followed him to his room. "Sam, are you okay? Sometimes, when I'm feeling down, it helps to take a walk outside and get a breath of fresh carbon dioxide." Sam revealed how Oxy had been teasing him all day at school. Cylindrica listened attentively and was saddened to hear about this terrible plant bully. She thought for a moment, then advised Sam to keep his distance from Oxy. The next day, Sam followed Cylindrica's advice. In fact, he spent the whole week avoiding Oxy. When he saw Oxy and his friends in the hallway, Sam hid by the lockers. In germination class, Sam sat in the back, hoping Oxy wouldn't notice him. And throughout the school day, Sam found himself camouflaging in dark corners and hiding behind friends. Sam knew he could keep hiding in the shadows for the rest of the school year, but this was no way for a houseplant to live. He really liked it much better being out in bright, indirect sunlight. That evening, while his family slept, Sam sat by the window overlooking Bloomsville, wondering what he should do. After a restless night of sleep, he woke up and decided it was time to have an honest talk with Oxy. As Sam walked to school with Pete, he shared the plan with his friend. "Just let it go," a concerned Pete implored. "We only have another 2 years of high school, and then we'll all be off to an arboretum." But Sam told Pete he couldn't wait that long. "I have to solve this problem now. I can't live like this." Just then, Sam spotted Oxy with his bike leaned up against a tree. "Wish me luck." He took a deep breath and walked up to Oxy. "Hi, Oxy. Can I talk to you for a second?" asked a nervous Sam.
"What do you want, garden pest?"
"I wanted to let you know I feel hurt when you make jokes about me."
"Lighten up, Sam. I'm just joking around."
Sam took another deep breath and mustered up the courage to say, "Well, I don't think it's funny."
"I get called names too, you know,"
said Oxy. "Why? I think you're a very cool plant."
"You do?"
A surprised and flattered Oxy replied. "Yeah. I think it's amazing how your purple leaves open and close with light. I mean, not many plants can do that." Oxy was touched by Sam's kind words. He looked down sadly.
"You called me a plant? My whole life other plants have labeled me a weed or said I wouldn't amount to anything more than chopped salad."
Sam could now see that Oxy was just unhappy deep down inside. "Don't listen to those squash bugs." Oxy smiled at Sam and let out a sigh.
"Sam, thank you for being so caring, even though I wasn't very nice to you. I guess I was kind of being an aphid. I'm sorry for making you feel bad."
"It's okay. I hope we can be friends."
"Of course,"
exclaimed Oxy, and the two grinned at each other. For the rest of the year, Oxy chose to focus on the greener side of things. He ended up blooming and growing a lot more than in previous years. School was also more enjoyable for everyone, especially Sam, who made many new friends and finally acclimated to the humid Bloomsville weather.
Hope you liked our video. Please subscribe.